Good morning. I hope you missed that little half second I went live a minute ago because I forgot to change to the headset again. So maybe I'll try the computer mic. I don't know. Anyway, it's just kind of a mess, ain't it? Anyway, so I hope you did. I hope you missed that little blip because I was just like, oh no, I forgot, and then I shut it down and deleted it real quick and went on about this new one, right? So I hope you missed the first one. Hope yeah, I deleted it, so maybe nobody saw it. Maybe I shouldn't even tell anybody, then you would know, right? Anyway, hope you're having a great morning. Hope you're having a good week. I got a lot on my mind this morning. There has been so much in the last 3 hours. I promise. Yes, and I've been up that long too. Oh, I've been up more like 4 hours. Well, actually, I've been up long enough to have had 2 cups of coffee and a nap and got a little bit of work done on a project. So it's been just kind of crazy. Sorry, Tina. Tina said she's heard it. I was like, oh no, I forgot. You couldn't have heard it because the mic was wrong. But anyway, but you got the notification right. Anyway, so today is my baby girl's 41st birthday, so I feel old. So she's like, "What do you do with that? The big 40, and then it's just we're just still counting, right?" Anyway, but it's her birthday, so that's kept my phone buzzing all morning, and then I found out that a friend of mine passed away early this morning, right, just about midnight today, and that's all just in the. This is only 8 hours. This day is only one third of the way done, and I've already had those two things. I've had all kinds of other interactions, and so I just as I started kind of puttering around, I'm getting older, so it's more puttering, right? And getting around and getting ready for the day to take on the day and making my decisions for the day. How much do I want to tolerate this? Do I want to tolerate that? I'm not going to watch this anymore. I'm going to turn my phone off for a while. Different things like that. I had this sense I was just a little bit overwhelmed. It's not a big bad thing, right? Just a little overwhelmed. Just a lot of stuff to process. And I'm noticing more and more that with just being inundated with ads on no matter what app you use, inundated with commercials on TV. I'm done. I think I'm finally done with TV. I pay for apps with no ads, so that's where we're going to go from now on, except for sports. And but there's nothing this time of year. Anyway, and we're just inundated with stuff. And on one hand, it's not that big a deal, but on the other hand, we got all that's a lot. Everything that goes through our eye gate has to be processed, good, bad, indifferent. Even the stuff that doesn't matter takes energy to process. And so I was processing how I was processing ads and TV, and actually some of my favorite judge shows are just got canceled. And that made me really mad because that's about the only thing I actually watch on real TV other than sports is my judge shows in the afternoons. And I don't always watch them because I got client meetings or Chris, like yesterday, Chris had his fitness class, and so I don't always get to watch them. But on the afternoons, I want to watch them and I can. I want to watch them, and they're getting canceled. And I'm like, well, good. There was too many commercials anyway. So you got to process all these things, and it's so easy with our living in this tech saturated world with everything vying for our attention, vying for our affection, vying for our thoughts. It's so easy to get overwhelmed. And I'm not even talking about overwhelmed in the emotional side of things with birthdays and deaths, right? And I have some loved ones who are very ill right now. I have some, there's just so many things going on. I'm not even talking about the real life events, just with the technology and the computers and the ads and the cell phone dinging. Mine started dinging while I was taking my nap this morning because I had already been up for 2 or 3 hours, right? But we're just inundated with stuff that our brain has to process. If we look at it, our brain has to process. There's not a button. There's not a button to mute. Even if we mute the commercials, our brain is still processing it, right? Our souls are still exposed to it if we're scrolling Twitter or we're scrolling Facebook or we're looking at TikTok or whatever everybody watches these days. I don't have that many, okay, really. But anyway, we're just inundated with stuff, right? And it's so easy to just get in this state of overwhelm, and that's where I was this morning. I'm just like, okay, I don't want anything else in my brain in this information center. I don't want to process anything. Well, that's not even possible unless you're asleep. That's what sleep's for, is to give your brain and heart a rest, right? And so I was just feeling like I was just getting all these messages, and And so when I feel overwhelmed, I always go to Psalm 61. And then I usually go to the piano and sing it, but you won't see that part today because I'll do that after this is over. Right? But it says, "Hear my cry, O God, attend to my ear, to my prayer. From the end of the earth I will cry to you when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I." So when we're overwhelmed in any facet of life, and there's many of them, there's emotional, there's mental, there's physical, right? It can be financial, there can be relationships, it can be, you got a list, right? And so we can, it's so easy these days. As a general rule, I think I can make this statement, and I believe it's to be accurate, is that we live in a state of overwhelm. Our jobs are overwhelming. Every one of my clients are overwhelming. Although I will say that when I had COVID, I got really cranky and I got rid of the ones I didn't like. I just said, I don't want to work for you anymore. I'm not working for you anymore. And I'm not working for you anymore. And now I'm going, why did I do that? But I'm happy with that. But we live in a state of overwhelm. We have an overwhelm of information. Even if it's good information, we're only made to handle so much, right? And so I think it's easy. I think it's easy to deduce that the whole world is in a state of overwhelm. We're seeing about wars and rumors of wars everywhere. Gee, where did I hear that? Oh, Matthew 24. Jesus said it's almost the end times when you see all this. There's pestilence on every side. There's earthquakes. There's all these things going on, and we can just, it's so easy to live in a state of overwhelm. But David kind of gives us the answer when he says, "My heart is overwhelmed," and he even prayed, "Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Lead me to the rock I can go to that can help me carry all of this, that can help me sort through all of this and find what? Peace." Isn't that what we need in the middle of our overwhelm? We need that peace, right? So he prays and says, "Lead me to that rock." Then he reminds himself, and I know we've talked about this psalm before, but it's worth repeating, right? "For you have been a shelter for me. You have been my strong tower." So when I'm overwhelmed today, and maybe you're not, if you're not, come back and mark this one and put it in your favorites and save it and come back and watch it when you are, when you know for sure you are, because you probably are and don't know it. But anyway, so he reminds himself, "You've been a shelter for me. You've been a strong tower. You've been a hiding place from my enemies." And our enemies are doubt, anxiety, fear. We don't have a physical enemy chasing us like David did, but we got lots of enemies to our soul that wants to drag us down, wants to make us feel so heavy and overwhelmed, right? And so he's like, "But you've been a shelter for me." And so he reminds himself of that. So I encourage you today, uh, the second you even think you might be overwhelmed, which maybe you're not, that would be great if you're not, but chances are most of us are, right? Overwhelmed. We can go back and remind ourselves of the times God has brought us through. Even those times, if you look back, we all got stories, right? And if you look back, you go, "Man, that was a tough time." And then from this perspective, hindsight's 2020, right? You can look back and go, "Man, God really brought me through that." And that gives us the what, reassurance maybe that he can probably get us through whatever we're facing today too. He's not going to say, "I'm not going to be your shelter anymore. I'm not your hiding place anymore. Go find another rock." Go find another God. Go find something else I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. Maybe God's just say, "I'm overwhelmed. You go find something else." No, he's never going to do that. He can't get overwhelmed. He already saw all of this and he provided a place for us to run, and it's right into his heart, right? And so but then he says, he reminds himself of that, and then he makes a declaration. "I will abide in your tabernacle forever." Now that could not have meant that he was going to live in the tabernacle, because David lived in the castle. He didn't live in a tabernacle. But I think he was saying, "I'm going to seek you forever, God. I'm going to seek you as my spiritual habitation," right? And then he says, "I will trust in the shelter of your wings." And see, that takes me back to Psalm 57, which is also one of my favorites. And I have to switch over to this other translation here, which is smaller. And he says, "I'm going to look to you for protection." Psalm 57. I'll hide beneath the shadow of your wings. Listen to these declarations, right? Until this violent storm has passed. I held on to that scripture when in a really violent storm of my life one time, and it's just been my mainstay scripture, Psalm 57 1. But then what caught my eye this morning as I was kind of studying around is in verse 3. He said, my God will send forth his unfailing love and faithfulness. My God will send forth his unfailing love and his faithfulness. He already gave us his peace, and he is faithful to make sure we can walk in his peace every single day. His faithfulness says, I'm still going to be your rock no matter how overwhelmed you feel. I'm still going to be your shelter no matter what comes against you. Your mind, your will, your emotions, your physical being. God's still our rock. So then all we have to do is make that declaration of when I'm overwhelmed, I'm going to trust you. And what are we going to trust? We're going to trust his unfailing love. That'll sustain you through some storms right there. Trust his unfailing love and his faithfulness. Just those two things could be a whole sermon, and I promise I'll spare you. But his unfailing love. He's never going to wake up and go, I don't know where y'all all came from. I don't love y'all. I don't love y'all anymore. Just go away. Right? No, his unfailing cannot fail, can't be revoked. It's not possible to make him not love you. You can't do anything to make God not love you. It's unfailing. That'll sustain you through the storm. And then his faithfulness, because he's going to be faithful to love us. He's going to be faithful in giving us his peace. He's faithful in giving us his mercy. And I look around at us, me specifically, and go, why? Am I worth that? And God, with his booming, thunderous voice in my imagination, says, yes. Unequivocally, unarguably, is that a word? It is now. Yes, we are worth his unfailing love and his faithfulness. So hold on to those two things today and peace out. He's got you. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.